It is important that a teacher must use the cognitive demands which are appropriate to the age and the level of development of the learners in the grade. The assessment task that the teacher designs must cover the content of the subject as well as the range of skills. Today we're going to look at the cognitive levels grid that a teacher must use when setting a formal assessment task or any assessment in any subject. My name is Mr. G. Welcome to my YouTube channel. A well-balanced or quality paper must cater for different kinds of learners in the classroom. It is for that reason that a teacher must set a task with his or her learners in the mind. A correctly set paper must not be too easy or difficult for the learner. All subject policy documents have a section that gives an indication of how the cognitive levels must be spread out in a formal task. The guidelines go deeper to an extent of mentioning the percentages that must be given to the cognitive levels linked to different questions in the assessment. Let's take a look at my suggested template of the cognitive level grid that the teacher can use when developing a formal assessment task. The subject used in this example is Natural Sciences and Technology, and the grade is grade 5. On the screen now we have an example of the cognitive levels grid that a teacher can develop before designing a formal assessment task. Okay, this is very important that we have the cognitive levels grid which is linked to the formal task so that the teacher can ensure that all different kinds of questions have been catered for to cater for different abilities of learners in the class. Because without the inclusion of the cognitive levels, we have finding ourselves having overlooked some of the learners in terms of their abilities, and then that might also affect the performance of learners in the class. Right, let's look at the template in front of us of the cognitive levels grid that needs to be developed alongside the formal task that the teacher has developed to assess the learners. Okay, you can see here the duration is 1 hour. It is for Natural Sciences and Technology grade 5. Okay, and the total marks of this particular task, we are having 40 marks. Okay, let's look at the grid, how it has been structured. All right, we have the first column here which has to do with questions. Okay, and then I must indicate that this formal task is subdivided into 3 sections. We've got section A as indicated there, then we've got section B there, then lastly we've got section C. All right, and then in terms of section A, it is made up of 4 questions. Okay, question 1, 3, 2, 3, and 4. Those are making section A. Okay, and then in terms of the topics that this formal task is derived from, in terms of what has been taken from the ATP, is that we have the topics that are indicated here: metals and non-metals, uses of metals, processing materials, processed materials as the last topic there. But in terms of section A, all the questions have been linked to the first topic, which is metals and non-metals. Okay, that's section A. So according to the cognitive levels grid, okay, so in terms of section A, all the questions in section A, they are catering for the first cognitive level, which is knowing science and technology. Okay, knowing science and technology, which means knowledge is being tested here. Okay, from the other screen that we've been to, we have seen that the cognitive level is named to, or is linked to different words that are used when setting the test. Okay, like for instance, name, list. Okay, those are level 1 kind of questions. And as we move further to the right, you will see that the level of difficulty in terms of the section A questions, question 1 to 4, it's easy. It is ticked easy. Okay, that is the level of difficulty. And the percentage of questions that are forming part of the first level of cognitive level, which is described to be easy, it's 50%. There is the 50%. So now that our test is out of 40, which means 50% of 40, which means half of 40 is going to be level 1 questions. Hence, you can see here the total for question number 1 to 4 is 20, which is the half of 40. Okay, so that is how the first cognitive level, this one has been catered for in terms of the level of difficulty. This is the low order questions. Okay, right. Moving right along, we move to section B. This is section B here. Section B now caters for the next cognitive level. Okay, the next cognitive level. But maybe before I can go to the next cognitive level, let me look at the topics. Okay, in terms of section B, according to this cognitive level grid, the teacher has covered uses of metals in section B, question 5 and 6. As you can see, there is uses of metals. It is linked to question 5. Okay, then the next one is the processing of materials. Okay, which is question number 6. So which means this topic now is linked to question number 6. The questions that are in question 6 are testing the learners in terms of that particular topic. Okay, that is the topic that has been catered for. Right, so then when we move right along to the cognitive levels in terms of section B, the questions that are in question 5 and 6 are testing the next cognitive level, which is the middle order questions. Okay, and there the teacher is testing the understanding of science and technology from the learners. Okay, as you can see, question 5 is ticked under this particular cognitive level, and question 6 is where the teacher is testing the application of scientific and technological knowledge. Okay, that is question 6. And when it comes to the level of difficulty, okay, this is going to be middle order questions. Okay, questions 6 and 5. They are linked to this kind of difficulty level, which is medium. All right, so that is the second one. So when we move right along to the last cognitive level in terms of the last question, which is question 7, falling under section C. Okay, when we look at that, we can see that maybe the teacher here might have decided that, okay, let me use the very same topics that I've used, or go to the next topic in order for it to be linked to the last question, which has to do with the difficult level. Okay, so here in terms of question 7, as you can see, this is the question that the teacher has planned to evaluate the learners in terms of evaluating, analyzing, synthesizing scientific and technological knowledge. Okay, so this is what this particular cognitive level is all about, and the questions that have to do with that are going to be found in section C on question number 7. And the level of difficulty there is going to be the difficult questions, which means high order questions, and the expectation is that the percentage should be 15%. So in our case, as you can see, 15% is going to be 6 marks. Okay, the previous one, which is section B, which is 35% of the total percentage of the cognitive level, which is going to be 14 when we have 7 and 7 here. They fall under the same cognitive level, which is middle order. Okay, and the first one, as we have already indicated, it is 50%, which is going to be 20. So in simple terms, we can see how the teacher has now broken down the cognitive levels for them to fit perfectly with this formal task that has been developed, which is a test. Okay, this is an example of a test that has been set for learners in grade 5, wherein the teacher has developed the cognitive levels grid to spread out different kinds of questions in the question paper. So this is what is expected as and when a formal task is developed. Okay, in front of your question paper, you might have this grid which clearly indicates how the cognitive levels have been structured in the content of the question paper. So it is always recommended that you have this grid right there in front for the moderator or whoever who is going to go through the paper to be able to see that. So that is how we can develop the cognitive levels grid, which is linked to a question paper, in order to make sure that it is a balanced paper or a paper that caters for different intelligences in the classroom. Right, on the screen right now we have the page from the subject policy document for Natural Sciences and Technology, grade 4, 5 and 6, as indicated here on top. It is expected, according to policy, that whenever a teacher develops a formal task, he or she must at least consult this particular page, wherein you're going to find information about how the cognitive levels should be spread out in your paper. For an example, as you can see, it is indicated here that the first cognitive level is the one that speaks to knowing science and technology. Okay, the knowing of science and technology, that particular knowledge. Okay, and that is going to be low order questions that are going to form 50% of the total number of percentage in terms of the entire question paper or the formal task. Okay, and here that is wherein we're going to have questions that are going to expect learners to state, to name, to label, as well as listing. Okay, so this is 50% low order questions. Okay, right, moving right along to the right, the next one, which is the middle order questions, the expectation is that they should at least form part of 35% of the total percentage of the formal task. Okay, and this is the one that has to do with testing the understanding science and technology, as well as applying scientific and technological knowledge. Okay, this is what this cognitive level is all about. So the types of questions that will be asked there, those are the middle order questions, and they will be made up of these words: explain, describe, compare, plan, predict, compare, design, and the others. So all those types of questions, they have to do with not low order, but middle order questions, which are supposed to make 35% of the total percentage of that formal task. All right, moving right along to the right, it is the last cognitive level, which is the one that is having to do with evaluating, analyzing, synthesizing scientific and technological knowledge. Okay, the expectation is that those types of questions that are going to make part of this should at least be weighing 15%, okay, of the total percentage of the entire formal task. Right. On the screen right now, we have the ATP for grade 5, Natural Sciences and Technology. So as I've indicated, that as and when a teacher develops a formal task or assessment, he or she should do that in consultation with the relevant subject policy document, as well as the ATP of that particular subject. So this is an example of the ATP that a teacher can consult in order to check on the topics that should make up that formal task. So questions that are asked in the task should be coming from the topics that are catered for in terms of the ATP. Thank you very much for having made time to listen to this particular video. Remember, like the video, click on the subscribe button so that whenever I release new videos in future, you can be notified. Thank you for your time.